Freelance writer and poet Kathleen Leonard can now add author to the list of her literary credits as her debut novel, How Far to Heaven, has just been released through Golden Sky Books. Kathleen's based in Eugene, and the story of How Far to Heaven is set there as well as being a portrayal of a Pacific Northwestern sense of place. It's a love story that merges with elements of mythology. There'll be a book launch event at Tsunami Books in Eugene this Friday night, July 6th at 7, and Kathleen's joined us in the KLCC studios. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Can you give us just a brief overview of what the story is?
Well, I got the idea to write it because I've always been really fascinated by mythology, and I've always felt like mythology can help us understand ourselves, and I thought it would be great to write a novel about a person living out a myth, and I love the myth of Psyche and Eros, which it's based on.
And who's your main character?
Our main character is a woman named Elizabeth Barreau, and she's a masseuse, and she lives in South Eugene.
Can you give us a brief snippet from the book to give us a flavor of the book?
Sure. This is I chose because it really gives a sense of that she lives in Eugene, and she's kind of lonely and wanting some company. So, and she's listening to KLCC.
Excellent.
All right. Mornings, she listened to the radio. Something was happening in the Persian Empire. Iraq said a little country in the middle of the Middle East was theirs and took it. One Saturday, when she turned the radio off, the house was as silent as a house with no electricity, and though small as houses go, its vaulted openness yawned its emptiness. She needed other humans, and for this reason she went down to the Saturday market where, surrounded by life and yet concealed within herself, she strolled past the traveling used bicycle shop, which was an old school bus with hundreds of bicycles hanging off its sides and roof, past tables of yellow gourds, red onions, jars of honey in 10 different shades of golden, past an old woman spinning raw wool, a young girl holding a sign that said, "Love or else," past the fountain school of metal salmon shining silver in the sun, barefoot children running in circles, stalls offering pottery, jewelry, and tie-dyed everything. She stopped beside an open hand with an eye in it, painted on a piece of wood. That's what it was like. Her hands could see. This hand hung beside the entrance of a fabric-covered booth. Below the hand, it said, "Tarot, $15, implying guidance."
Kathleen Leonard from her new novel, How Far to Heaven. She will have a book event releasing that at Tsunami Books at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, July 6th. As an author myself, I know that you find elements of yourself in all your characters when you're writing fiction. Has that proven true for you in this book?
Pretty much all.
Yeah. So what did you learn about yourself from your characters, do you think, in this process?
Well, that I'm many-faceted, that I love the Northwest.
Uh-huh. What else about the Pacific Northwest did you really want to capture in this book besides South Eugene? What flavor of the Northwest did you want to bring into this?
Well, there are scenes in it from the Oregon Country Fair. There's a river rafting trip on the Umpqua. I think it's just that I am so myself connected to the Northwest that when I was trying to think of ideas that would portray the myth, that's what came. Like, for example, in the myth, there's a scene where she jumps into a raging river, and the river, instead of drowning, the river takes her to the shore. And so there was a river rafting trip on the Umpqua River, and just on and on. Every time I wanted something to represent the myth, there I was in the Northwest finding something.
Talk a little bit more about the role of mythology in this book and how you say it can play itself out in our daily lives.
Well, I think that these myths have been around for so long that they carry aspects of human behavior that just keeps repeating itself. And so we can We don't have to figure everything out. It's actually all there if we read these old stories. And yeah, and I knew I had read myself so many nonfiction books about the subject. There's so many nonfiction books, and so I thought how cool that would be to write a fiction book of somebody actually doing what these nonfiction books talk about.
And it's very much of a love story. What would you like to say about the love story that's involved in this book?
Well, I'd like to say about the love story that in the end, what she discovers is that it's all within herself. You know, she wants love in her life, and it comes and ends up disappointing, but that doesn't change the love within herself. In fact, in the myth, it's about a love story between Psyche and Eros, whereas in my novel, she goes through like 3 different relationships to discover what Psyche did. It's, and that to me reflects that really it's all within ourselves.
This is your first published novel. What do you know about writing a novel that you wish you knew before you began? What did this teach you about writing?
I think the biggest thing I learned that I didn't know in the beginning was structure. I just sat down and started writing, and it ended up at least twice as long as it is now. And then I learned about structure and kind of had to squeeze it into, plot and all that.
That was the exact same thing I learned the first time I tried to write a novel. I wasn't organized enough. Got it much better the second time.
Exactly, yeah. I've already started my second novel, and I'm starting from that place, so.
It's an interesting journey to be an author these days. There's so many ways to get books out there as well, and Golden Sky Books is kind of midway between the self-publishing model and a traditional publisher. So I don't know how that model has worked for you so far, but I wish you well getting the book there out into the world where it belongs.
Thank you so much.
Kathleen Leonard, author of the new novel How Far to Heaven. She'll be hosting a book launch event at Tsunami Books in Eugene this Friday evening, July 6th, beginning at 7 p.m. Tsunami Books is located at 2585 Willamette Street in Eugene. It's a free event, so no tickets required, but the bookstore can be reached at 541-345-8986. How Far to Heaven can be found through Amazon online at Amazon.com or through Golden Sky Books at GoldenSkyBooks.com. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.